Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and we are here for part 2 of my relic farming guide. If you've missed part 1, these are all on a playlist, so you can go check that out. I would say I'm going to link them in the video description, but maybe at a later date I will be doing that, but for how I'm going to be releasing these things, they probably won't be in the video description, just flat out honesty. The first part of this video, just as a quick recap, was just an introduction, kind of showing you what you're going to need at each level and giving you some high level of where to stop at different, relic levels comparative to your GP. Today, what we're going to be talking about instead are the first two pieces you need for relics in Carbonite circuit boards and Bronzium wiring. I'm going to be going into how I farm these things, how I think you can be farming them, recommendations, pros and cons. We're going to be deep diving these two parts. This is an area I feel I failed you in as a content creator, that I don't cover it in enough detail. So we're going to get in there. First and foremost, though, huge shout out to my channel members, guys. Again, if you missed the first part where I said I'm not going to be showing the banner for this guide because I want this to be a much longer thing and I don't want to alienate members who are like, how come I wasn't on it? So this is your shout out, and you get our King Wampa here. At the time of recording, we're trying to hit 10,000 subscribers, so make sure you like and subscribe. Comment down below. Let's get in here. I apologize for the long intro. It won't happen again, and maybe it will. But let's get in here. All right. So linked in the video description is a link to this guide, right? This is my Google Sheet that I made here with a tab for every single relic. In the first part here, we covered the first three sections here. So now we're going to move to Carbonite circuit boards, or CCBs. This is a very easy piece to obtain from multiple sources. Now, the con here is that you literally need so many it hurts. And it does. It's not fun. There's two things we're going to start with here first. You have your popular salvage pieces, right? So you'll see here that I kind of picked these ones at the top. What I say here, just for a note, I personally try to keep a minimum of 100 pieces of all salvage on hand at all times. So what that means is that when I'm getting down to a point where I'm going to trade these in, and I'll show you guys that in the video here, I make sure that I have at least 100 of them on hand at all times. So for example, this piece here that only has 85, not even going to worry about touching it. I don't even consider touching that piece until it hits 150. Once a piece reaches that 50, that's when I scrap it in, right? I'll scrap 50 of them into Carbonite circuit boards. This also has one of the greatest packs ever. We'll get a little bit more into the math here, but this is one of the greatest packs, with my overall recommendation for this piece being you need to chip away at this every day. Be intentional with your farming and supplement with the pack when you're able to. That as you progress in the game, you have more bonus crystals available. This pack becomes super important. Before then, you just need to be really diligent with these. As you get later in the game, you can kind of supplement and purchase this pack, and it makes your life a lot easier. So let's get into the first area that everybody loves to talk about. Light side 1D. Now this is a place, this node here, this is one of the fastest ways to get Carbonite circuit boards. This is one of the fastest ways. The biggest con here is there's no other value to your farming. When you look on this node, there's nothing else you're getting. You're just worrying, you're just getting salvage to scrap into Carbonite circuit boards. My recommendation is that this is an emergency only and not the long-term solution. So, and I say emergencies only, that in general, this is not your long-term solution. This is not something that I'm going to tell you you need to be doing for the rest of your Galaxy of Heroes career. If you are a player who doesn't have a lot of bonus crystals, this can be a decent option for you. I think for players, if you're not really able to hoard enough crystals to be able to purchase this pack up here, then this one becomes a lot more enticing, I would say. With this pack in here, what I would say is when you look at it's 500 crystals, to really benefit from this pack, you need to be in this 150 to 300 drop range. So a 65% chance that you're going to get a drop that's advantageous to you. But in reality, that 150 drop is about what you would get from farming light side 1D. The difference is they were bonus crystals you saved rather than just farming these with your regular energy every single day. So just something to think about there. Light side 1D. Again, my recommendation going to be emergencies only, not the long-term solution. Then we've got some fleet nodes here that I'd like to share. So both of these nodes have gear that you can scrap into Carbonite circuit boards, with both of them giving you gear 13 salvage. We'll get into whether or not these gear pieces could be used for other materials down the road, but your con here is that it takes a while to notice the benefit. But what I want to show, right, is that if you get 40 salvage a day, just any 40 salvage, whether you're farming this piece up here, right, but look at just 40 salvage a day, your math here gets you over 3 Carbonite circuit boards, 3.43 circuit boards. If you extrapolate that over the course of a year, just 40 salvage a day, that's 1,251 Carbonite circuit boards just from farming nodes. And 40 salvage is not that difficult to get, right? That's not that difficult to get over the course of a day. So that is massive. Like, don't balk at that number. You're like, oh my gosh, I need so many more than that. That's just from a single area. And if you're getting more than that, think you're getting more Carbonite circuit boards, right? Just look, if I change this to 60, right, now you're up to 1,800. So again, you see how that math works. In my opinion, this is the best long-term solution. Farming these pieces when you're going for gear 13 gear, that you don't use your Mark II raid currency to purchase these. Now there's other ways to get salvage. You can use the guild activity store. There's some very good pieces in here that are cheap with guild tokens. Now again, this is another one, it takes a long time to see results. Now, my recommendation overall, when you're trying to get characters farmed with your guild tokens, I would only do this like maybe once a day. Once you have all the characters 7-star with your guild tokens, hammer this thing. Hammer it whenever they pop up and you'll be happy you did it. Again, you can also get some of these pieces with your arena tokens, as you can see here. Again, a very cheap thing. Takes a long time to see the benefit. I would say you can kind of mix this in, but you still need to get your prestige. So this is not something that you only spend your arena currency on, but it's a nice little thing to do, you know, every so often, kind of help you boost up your, you know, intake of materials every so often. Again, just showing you, look, that if you got 30 materials from these two sources, that's another, every day, that's another 900 Carbonite circuit boards in your pocket. That's just from those areas. Otherwise, there are other ways to get these, but I don't think you're going to want to use those sources. This, in my opinion, node farming is one of the best ways to get these pieces. And that's going to be a common theme here today for this video. Node farming going to be king. So now let's move to Bronzium wiring, probably the most difficult piece that players have trouble with. The pro here, the best salvage piece for Bronzium wiring is in the most important node in the game, right? The most important node of the game, you can help get Bronzium wiring. And another thing here, your con, there's really only one viable node to get a good amount of salvage here. That's just the unfortunate thing. My recommendation is that this is something you have to focus on every day. You can't afford to fall behind. Where I said with Carbonite circuit boards, just, hey, get these every day. The Bronzium wiring, you need to be intentional every single day. If you fall behind on these, you're going to get in trouble. I'm just going to talk about the pack first. We'll talk about salvage in a second. This is the most mid pack ever. I do not think this pack really is that good a value. Some players may argue that, but I think this has terrible value. I do not recommend this pack whatsoever. This is like desperation of all desperation to maybe hope you get 100, but I can't do it. No. Now, your popular salvage is going to be basically your pieces in this top row that you can purchase through Guild Store, but this piece right here is on a node, and we will get to that. There's also some pieces for 6 and 2 in here that we're going to briefly mention as well, just to kind of help show you how you can supplement this and ensure you're getting enough Bronzium wiring so that way you don't run out. Now, the first piece worth 10 is the most easy to, it's the easiest access. The pieces worth 6, these can be solid value over time. These are kind of one of those like dark horse pieces that if you can get a couple of these, every so often, it's going to just help alleviate, right? It's just going to help you maintain a solid inventory at that point in time. The pieces worth 2 should be emergencies only or once in a while to clean them out. These, do not rely on these. A huge mistake players make. They rely on these for relics, and then they get behind on them. Like, these need to be like your emergencies only, or I'm going to clean out, a couple thousand of these at once and then, keep, my inventory up. I will show you guys doing some scrapping for both carbonate circuit boards and bronzium wiring here at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. All right, now we're here to the greatest node in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, Lightside 7B. This is a Fat Phil must node. You're going to get your pros. You're going to get Carbonite and wiring. Literally the best node in the game. It does take a while to see the benefit here. It does. It's going to take you a little bit to see the benefit. It takes some days to kind of really understand how it's, forming together. And unfortunately, you can't do this node when you're farming Darkside Galactic Legend tickets. That's one of the biggest cons here. This is the only node I farm that doesn't have a character on it. This is the only regular energy node I farm that doesn't have a character on it. And this should be your priority node. This is your priority gear node. I've talked about this all the time when farming Kyrotech. The other piece that you can get on the dark side nodes is very easy to get in stores. This one you want to get on Lightside 7B. It just, both, because look at this. Both this Mark V laptop and this piece right here, up here, they are both in bronze. They both can be salvaged for bronzium wiring. Literally so much bronzium wiring and Kyrotech on this node. You also have Fleet 2F, which has this piece down here, which we can also trade in for bronzium wiring. This is not as good of a rate of return as Lightside 7B, but if you do happen to need this piece here, it can be solid value, right? It's solid value. I'm not going to say it's fantastic. What I kind of say is when you need this piece, it helps you offset bronziums. Otherwise, I'd kind of use those fleet nodes to farm your Carbonite circuit boards. But what I want to show is that if you get 40 salvage of this piece right here a day, which if you do your 3 times 50 is not that hard, you could get somewhere in the range, right, of, if you look, it's 45 points to get 1 bronzium wiring. If you scrap 40 of them, you're going to get roughly 8 bronzium wiring a day. That's 3,200 in a year. So even if you only got 20 and 20, look at how much you're getting. These are if you got the 12 pieces, right? Or the 6 pieces. So this is 10. If you got the ones that are worth 6, right? Just look how much bronzium wiring that is just by getting your salvage. This bronzium is all about your salvage pieces, right? That's the main goal here. I think 40 a day for that is very reasonable. This one just showing if you were to do like a 3 times 50 on this particular fleet node, you could probably hit here. And you're going to get a decent amount of bronzium wiring if you did that every single day. You need to think of relics in the long term. You can't think of them in terms of how many am I going to get in a week. That's not, you're just going to get like depressed. You got to think long term. Now there are some other ways. There's some guild tokens you can get here. Again, it takes a while. Like I said, do this once a day. Then hammer it. I really don't like to recommend any other ways to get bronzium wiring. I think that by what you're going to need to remember when you're doing relics, when you're farming relics, doing all these things, it all comes together as one. That whatever way you're getting your bronzium wiring, you're not able to get carbonite circuit boards that way. Whatever way you're getting, like my fleet energy normally goes into farming my carbonite circuit boards, and my regular energy goes into farming bronzium wiring. But if I was to switch those, right, you see that concept, like that's got to have an inverse relationship, that if you just spend all of your resources getting one of these, you're going to miss out on the other one. So I do want to pop into the game here as promised to show you guys some scrapping that I've been holding off doing, just to show you that it does take time. So here is the way I would do this. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to make sure that I keep at least 100 of these on hand. So you see how this one is 145, gonna let it go. I wait till it gets 150. That's just my own personal thing that I do. Doesn't mean you have to do it, but it's the way that I do it. So we're gonna go through and I'm gonna stop here. Look, even though I could say, oh, Phil, it's only 99, I'm stopping there. Then I'm gonna come down here just to show you guys that these pieces down in here, notice I didn't even cover these, just don't even worry about it, right? It's not worth that. It's not worth the hassle, right? So I'm going to convert these. But just to show you that, like, oh, it's not worth the hassle. Like, just, if I was to trade in 2,000 of these, I'd get 75 Carbonite circuit boards. I mean, it's just not, this is beyond emergencies only. This is like scraping the bottom of the barrel. I just don't ever really trade these in unless they hit obscene amounts. There's just no reason. Now we go to our Bronzium wiring, where I've got a lot more stuff to trade in here because of how much these are exacerbated. I will say this. I'm going to preface here. These are exacerbated because of how many Galactic Legend tickets I've been farming for Ray. So I do have a lot of those. Yeah, I'm not going to pretend that I don't have like an obscene amount of those. So there's some Bronzium wiring, but then you guys are going to see here that even in this range, we've got a nice bit here. So look, I'm going to keep these, right? I try to stay at that, 150, right? And then we've got a ton of these. I'm going to trade a bunch of these things in. I try to keep about 2,000 of these on hand at all times. Why 2,000? I don't know, because I feel like it. Like, there's no, I don't know, it's just the method to my madness. I don't really have, sometimes, guys, you don't necessarily need this scientific reason. You just can do it because that's what you do, right? I mean, there's not like a scientific method that says this is the only way to do it. It's just the way that I feel, All right, we're going to trade those in. I'm going to leave everything else there. So now, back up a little bit into our Relic materials. So hopefully this video helped you. You guys got to see me convert a whole bunch of Relic stuff, but you guys can see with these two pieces, what I'm going to say, if I go back to our handy dandy spreadsheet here, what I'm going to say for Carbonite circuit boards and Bronzium wiring, with these pieces, to echo my cross-country coach in college, it's not rocket science, it's consistency. You will not have problems with these pieces if you are consistent in your farming. There's not a rocket science. You guys saw, there's not if you salvage this or you do that, you do this. Like, it doesn't, these are all about consistency in your farming. These are all about having the right salvage, about doing the right things with your energy so you end up in a position where you can get as much out of this as you can. Hopefully this guide helps you guys. Let me know your thoughts down below. I love all you. May the force be with you, and I'll see you guys in the next video. May the force be with you. Cheers.